Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 1. We are on text 31. We have been reading the pastime of Atri Muni, where the three lords have come to meet him. Athasmad amsha bhutaste atmaja loka vishrutaha bhavitaro anga bhadram te visrapshayanti chate yashaha. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So the lords gave him the boon that he is going to have, because he wanted a son like the Lord, the creator of the universe. So you will have the Lord of the universe. He wanted to have a son like the Lord of the universe. So you will have sons who will represent a partial manifestation of our potency. And because we desire all God good fortune for you, those sons will glorify your reputation throughout the world. Until today, we are, he's mentioned in, Atri Muni is mentioned in Bhagavatam, and this is like in ages gone by. And we are speaking about him now in Kali Yuga. So, would anyone like to read the Sanskrit? Recite the Sanskrit?
Okay, I'll read. Hare Krishna. Evam kamavaram dattva pratijagmo sureshwara sabhajitastayo samyag dampatyo mishatostata.
Yes, while the couple looked on, the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar, disappeared from that place after bestowing upon Atri Muni the benediction. Please read, someone, the Sanskrit.
I can read.
Okay.
Somaha abhrita brahmana anshena datah vishnuhu tu yoga vitah durvasa shankarasya anshah nibodh angirasah praja.
Thereafter, from the partial representation of Brahma, the moon god was born of them. From the partial representation of Vishnu, the great mystic Dattatreya was born. And from the partial representation of Shankar, Lord Shiva, Durvasa was born. Now you may hear from me of the many sons of Angira. So moon god is partial representation of Brahmaji, of Vishnu is Dattatreya, and Durvasa Muni is of Lord Shiva. Would someone like to read?
Yeah, I can read. Shraddha tu angiraspatni chatastra asut kanyayakaha sinivali kuhuraka chaturthi anumati tatha.
Angira's wife Shraddha gave birth to 4 daughters named Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati. So we are going to be hearing, as we said before, a lot of names, but we just hear them. They are all great personalities. That's the reason they are there in the Bhagavatam. Tatputrav apa Rav Ashtam Khyato Swaro Chishe Antare Utthatyo Bhagavan Sakshat Brahmishthascha Brahaspatihi. Besides these 4 daughters, she also had another 2 sons. One of them was known as Uttaya, and the other was the learned scholar Brahaspati. Pulastyo Janayat Patnyam Agastyam cha Havir Bhuvi So Anya Janmani Dharagnir Vishravascha Mahatapaha. Pulastya begot in his wife Havirbhu, one son of the name Agastya, who in his next birth became Dhaharagni. Besides him, Pulastya begot another very great and saintly son, whose name was Vishrava. Tasya yaksha patir deva kuberastva ida vidasutaha ravana kumbhakarnascha tatha yasyam vibhishanaha. Vishrava had two wives. The first wife was Idavida, from whom Kuver, the master of all yakshas, was born, and the next wife was named Keshini, from whom three sons were born, Ravan, Kumbhakaran, and Vibhishan. So Ravan is coming from a great lineage, from a great family. Pulahasya gatir bharya trin asuta sati sutan karma shreshtham variyamsam sahishnu cha mahamate. Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to three sons named Karma Shrestha, Variyan, and Sahishnu, and all of them were great sages. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, was the fifth daughter of Kardama Muni. She was very faithful to her husband, and all her sons were as good as he. I'm already confused of the names, and I'm just going to continue reading if that's all right. Yes.
Same
Okay.
here.
But yeah, okay. Krator api kriya bharya val la kilyan asuyata rishi.
Sorry, just for
Yes.
Ravan, if you could just clarify, because he is we all know him, and he's a, like, so his mother is Keshini. His mother is Keshini, right?
Yes.
And the father, Pulastamuni. No. Visharbha.
The next wife was named Keshini, Vishrava.
And then Vishrava was the
Vishrava.
son of
Okay, so
Pulastamuni.
Vishrava, Pulastya got in his wife, Agastya, who in his next birth became Daharagni. Pulastya became, okay, so Vishrava is Pulastya's son.
Okay. Okay.
Vishrava is Pulastya's son.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, but
And Pulatsya is
Agastya Muni's
No.
son.
son, right?
No, no.
The
Pulastya's
one
son,
of the
another
name
son
Agastya.
another son was Agastya. Pulastya has two sons. One is Agastya and one is Vishrava. And Pulastya's father, if you want, besides these four daughters, she also had another two sons. One of them was known as Uttaya and the other was the learned scholar Brahaspati. So, let's see. Angira Muni's wife, Shraddha, gave birth to four daughters, Sinivali, Kuhu, Raka, and Anumati. So they are all coming in Angira's family. Angira's Muni's family. Yeah. Ravan is coming from Angira Muni's family.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
In this family also came Brahaspati. Brahaspati is the priest of the demigods. Yeah.
He's the
So
Dev
then
Guru,
reading.
Brahaspati.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So then
Okay.
reading on Pulahasya gatir bharya trin asuta sati sutan karma shreshtham variyamsam sahishnum cha mahamate. Gati, the wife of the sage Pulaha, gave birth to three sons named Karma Shrestha, Variyan, and Sahishnu, and all of them were great sages. Gati, the wife of Pulaha, was the fifth daughter of Kardama Muni. She was very faithful to her husband, and all her sons were as good as he. So they're all coming in Kardama Muni's family, right? Angira, well, Angira was in Angira's family, they are all coming. Ravan was coming. Now, did Angira come from Kardama Muni's daughters? I'm not sure. You want, I can go back if you want to read that. If no, then I'll continue reading. Kratorapi kriya bharya valakhilyan asuyata rishin shasti sahasrani jwalato brahma tejasa. Kratu's wife Kriya gave birth to 60,000 great sages named the Valakhilyas. All these sages were greatly advanced in spiritual knowledge, and their bodies were illuminated by such knowledge. Kriya was the sixth daughter of Kardama Muni, and she produced 60,000 sages who were known as the Valakhilyas because they all retired from family life as Vanaprasthas. 60,000 children. Can you imagine taking care of one kid? Well, this is Kali Yuga, and that was another age back then. So, Urjayam Jajnire Putra Vashishthasya Parantapa Chitraketu Pradhanaste Sapta Brahma Shayo Amalaha. The great sage Vashishtha begotten his wife Urja, sometimes called Arundhati, 7 spotlessly great sages headed by the sage named Chitraketu. So Vashishtha had his wife called Urja, and then they had 7 sages. Chitraketu is the Chitraketu Surocischa Viraja Mitra Evacha Ulbano Vasu Pratyano Dyuman Shakti Adayo Pare. The names of these 7 sages are as follows: Chitraketu, Surochi, Viraja, Mitra, Ulbana, Vasubhrityana, and Dyuman. Some other very competent sons were born from Vashishta's other wife. Urja, who is sometimes known as Arundhati, was the wife of Vashisht, was the 9th daughter of Kardama Muni. Chitistva atharvanaha patni lebe putram dritavratam dadyancham ashvashirasam brigor vamsham nibodame. Chiti, wife of the sage Atharva, gave birth to a son named Ashvashira by accepting a great vow called Dadyancha. Now you may hear from me about the descendants of the sage Bhrigu. The wife of Atharva, known as Chiti, is also known as Shanti. She was the 8th daughter of Kardama Muni. So we have been hearing about the daughters of Kardama Muni. And Angira Muni had married one of the daughters of Kardama Muni, and Ravan came in that family then. Bhrigu Khyatiyam Mahabhaga Patnyam Putran Ajijana Dhataram Cha Viditaram Shriyam Cha Bhagavad Param. The sage Bhrigu was highly fortunate in his wife known as Khyati. He begot 2 sons named Dhata and Vidata, and one daughter named Shri, who was very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhrigu Muni, his wife is Khyati, he has 2 sons, Dhata and Vidhata, and one daughter named Shri. And Shri is a devotee of the Supreme Lord. Ayatim niyatim cheva sute merustayor adata bhayam tayor abhavatam mrikanda prana evacha. The sage Meru had 2 daughters named Ayati and Niyati, whom he gave in charity to Dhata and Vidhata. Ayati and Niyati gave birth to 2 sons, Mrikanda and Pran. So Bhrigu Muni's sons got married to Meru's daughters, and then that's the sons. So this is how the universe was starting to get populated. Before was only Lord Brahma, and then he created the 4 Kumaras. They didn't want to populate the earth. You know, they didn't want. They said, "Sorry, we are gonna." Our time and energy, we are just going to focus to the Supreme Lord. We don't want to get married and do all this. So Brahma got angry, he got Rudra, Shiva. Now Shiva was producing kids, but so many of these followers, but they were destroying the world. So Brahmaji told him, please, Shanti. Now is not the time for you to destroy the universe. When the time comes, I'll tell you. Till the time, you go and sit in meditation. So that's why Lord Shiva is sitting in meditation. Who is he meditating on? On the Supreme Lord. Sankarshan is the Lord of his heart. His Ishtadev is Sankarshan. Sankarshan is an expansion of Krishna. Of Balaramji. Balaramji is an expansion of Krishna. So, and then Narad Muni. Lord Brahma just told him, you are a pure devotee. You just engage in devotional service and spread devotional service to everyone. Then, Brahmaji was creating the 7 sages, and then he created Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. Then when Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa came, from that time on started the mating. The children were produced by mating from that time on. And then the sages are there. And then this is how the universe is getting populated gradually. Markandeyo Markandasya Pranad Vedisharamuni Kavisya Bhargavo Yasya Bhagavan Ushana Sutaha. From Markanda, Markandeya Muni was born, and from Pran, the sage Vedashira, whose son was Ushana Shukracharya, also known as Kavi. Thus, Kavi also belonged to the descendants of the Bhrigu dynasty. So, Shukracharya is also called Kavi Ushana, and he's coming in the Bhrigu dynasty. The ete munaya shatar lokan sarger abhavayan esha kardama dhaut hitra santana kathitastava shanvata shraddhanasya sadhya pahara paraha prasuti manavim daksha upayemehi ajatmajaha. My dear Vidur, the population of the universe was thus increased by the descendants of these sages and the daughters of Kardama. Anyone who hears the descriptions of this dynasty with faith will be relieved from all sinful reactions. Another of Manu's daughters, known as Prasuti, married the son of Brahma named Daksh. So we were hearing all these were the descendants of the daughters of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni had 9 daughters, and there were these 9 sages. And here we have a Falashruti. The Falashruti, just by hearing the names of these descendants, what's happening? Our sinful reactions are gone. With faith, we will be relieved from all sinful reactions. That's how Bhagavatam is. So kind, so compassionate, always giving us Falashruti. You hear this story, you're going to get love of Godhead, you'll go back home, back to Godhead. That's what we heard when, after we finished the Kapila Shiksha. If anyone hears the pastime of Lord Kapila, they goes back home, back to Godhead, gets Krishna Prema. So Bhagavatam is so, so compassionate, so kind. We simply have to hear Bhagavatam submissively and attentively. So Prasuti and Daksh. Now we'll start their lineage, because Manu had 3 daughters, right? Akuti, Prasuti, and I forgot the third one now. Does anyone remember? Manu's daughter, Devahuti. Yeah. Akuti, Prasuti, and Devahuti. Tasyam sasarja duhitrihe sodash Shamala Lochanaha Trayod Shada Dharma Ya Tathaikam Agnaye Vipuhu. Daksha begot 16 very beautiful daughters with lotus-like eyes in his wife Prasuti. Of these 16 daughters, 13 were given in marriage to Dharma, and 1 daughter was given to Agni. So Daksha, he's one of the Prajapatis, In this canto, we are going to hear a lot about Daksha and Lord Shiva. He has gotten 16 beautiful daughters. 13 are given to Dharma. 1 is given to Agni. Pitribhya ekam yuktebhyo bhava ekam bhavachide shraddham maitri daya shanti stushti pushti kriyo natihe buddhir meda titiksharir murti dharmasya patnayaha shraddha suta shubham maitri prasadam abhayam daya shanti sukham mudam tushti samyam pushtir ayus Ashu yata yogam kriyon natir darpam artham buddhir ashu yata medha smritim titikshatu shemam hri prashayam sutam murti sarva gunotpatir nara narayana vrishi. Of the remaining 2 daughters, 1 was given in charity to the Pitralok, where she resides very amicably, and the other was given to Lord Shiva, who is the deliverer of sinful persons from material entanglement. The names of the 13 daughters of Daksh who were given to Dharma are Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti, Tushti, Pushti, Kriya, Unnati, Buddhi, Medha, Titiksha, Shri, and Murti. These 13 daughters produced the following sons. Shraddha gave birth to Shubha, Maitreya produced Prasad, Daya gave birth to Abhay, Shanti gave birth to Sukh, Tushti gave birth to Mudha, Pushti gave birth to Smaya, Kriya gave birth to Yoga, Unnati gave birth to Darpa, Buddhi gave birth to Artha, Medha gave birth to Smriti, Titiksha gave birth to Shema, and Hri gave birth to Prashraya. Murti, a reservoir of all respectable qualities, gave birth to Sri Narnarayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sri Narnarayan came from Murti, who is one of the daughters of Daksha. Narnarayan Rishi is the Supreme Lord. Narnarayan Rishi is the Supreme Lord in Badrikashram. So we'll stop here for today. There was a lot of names.
Yes. Yeah, very confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's for our purification. Bhagavatam. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for listening and joining in. Hari Bol.